Cool. So why don't we kick it over to some gameplay and actually take a look at Mission 7?
Mission 7, NIS.
Okay.
This is the Garden of Kadesh. For 13 generations we have protected it from the unclean. The tyrannic raiders who came before you refused to join and were punished for this trespass. Like theirs, your ship has already defiled this holy place. If you have come to join, we welcome you, and will spare you your ship until all have disembarked. If you have come to consume the garden, you will be removed at once. What are your intentions?
We were unaware of the significance of this location. We mean no conflict. Please allow us time to prepare our engines so that we may withdraw as requested.
If you will not join, then die. There is no withdrawal from the garden.
Delay the attacking ships while Fleet Command charges the hyperdrive module.
All right. I think
We should
we're
have the
going to
range to
switch it
jump
over to
right
another
in.
map real quick so that a lot of stuff can blow up and it'll look really awesome. But for now, hey, Evan, just out of curiosity, you know off the top of your head how big the texture is for the mothership in terms of file size?
Well, it has a number of textures. It uses multiple 4096s.
So if you just had to guesstimate off the top of your head.
It's about 10 megs.
Okay, 10 megs of textures on the mothership now. Dave, you want to zoom in on the mothership real quick so we can take a look at those?
Aye, aye. How about in the
Hey, Rob and Aaron, the original mothership.
100K, 100 kilobytes on average. I believe the motherships we were able to go as high as 200K.
It was still sweet.
Every pixel lovingly handcrafted. Artisanal pixels only.
So at this point, I think Dave's going to start queuing up some stuff to blow up. And we're just going to hand it over to the rest of the panel if there's anything they want to talk about in terms of tech changes that have been made or art or... Oh, Dave, if you want to tell us that funny story about how you made lasers actually work in space.
We'll get there.
Destroy enemy motherships.
So one of the things you're noticing right now, the backgrounds, we put a lot of effort of actually remastering those backgrounds. If you remember from the original Homeworld 1 and 2, they were actually just vertex-colored meshes. They weren't actually textures. And so they're really abstract. It was really hard to actually understand some of the detail. It was so fantastically abstract. You kind of get the impression of this like painterly space, right? And so when it came to remastering them, sometimes you didn't exactly know what it was supposed to be exactly, right? And so we worked with Rob and Blackbird, and they actually helped us remaster all the backgrounds for the game.
Reporting.
They're giant textures as well. You want a good video card.
Hey, Brian, this UI looks a little different than what I remember.
Ready.
Well, yes, again. You're doing a lot of work here. I did the code and a lot of the work for the UI. And the aesthetic was helped designed by another artist here at Gearbox, Brian Cousins. And so we remastered it in large part so it can scale up to 4K. Because in Homeworld 2, it's a bar on the bottom that didn't scale. And now you can go really, really high. And you can also scale the UI independently, too. So if you really want to go crazy.
Capital ship.
Wait, 4K? What did the original Homeworld run at?
Standing
Was it
by.
1600 by 1200 was the high? That was the max.
Yeah, 1600 by 1200 was the maximum, 640 by 480 was the default. Everything was authored to run at 640 by 480, so the UI all fit within a little like bit in the middle of the window there. But undocumented feature of Homeworld 1 original is it ran at 320 by 200 quite well. With a high frame rate.
So, Luke, what was it like going back and seeing the code you had written, 15 years ago? How much did you hate yourself?
Well, actually, I didn't hate myself very much for the old code. I mean, because Homeworld 1 engine was all written in C, and you know, it's a pretty simple engine, but it did the job at the time. And Homeworld 2 engine was much more sophisticated. And because we took a long time developing it, there's a lot of systems in Homeworld 2 that, you know, we had upgraded during the development of Homeworld 2. And so it was actually a pretty sophisticated engine, and you know, we mostly had to bring a lot of the rendering up to date, and you know, we found a lot of things that broke the game once we started putting Homeworld 1 ships into Homeworld 2 engine. But it's not been too bad. Getting the campaign to work well and feel the same as Homeworld 1 in the Homeworld 2 engine has been quite a lot of work, and there's still a few bugs to fix in that, but it's working pretty well.
All right, we're gonna get messy here. I've been letting these guys talk, but we want to see stuff blow up. So let's do that.
What's our damage? Torpedo frigate under attack.
Anyone who's played this game knows about the audio balance, where you can come out and hear the larger battle, and you can zoom in and hear the individual ships. So we'll focus on some new stuff. Let's see. For example, beams. This battle cruiser is laying into that, I think, carrier in this moment. But in a moment, we'll be able to get him to do a shot across his bow, and you can see that the beams themselves actually cast light across the whole entire playfield. So anything they cross, they light. They're not point lights anymore. You can, yeah, right here. We had this weird conversation one day on a phone call, because this team is highly remote, which we really haven't talked about much, but everyone here is from a completely different geographical location. And we just thought it would be cool to see beams shoot from the ships and actually be beams, and then we did it. I did it, and other people complained about how I did it, so I did it again, and it looked better. Which describes most graphics programming. So yeah, I can't wait for people to get a hold of this and make beams come out of things that shouldn't have beams in them. But let's blow some more stuff up.
Dave, you said you can't wait for people to get their hands on it and make things happen. Brian, that sounds like mod support.
Done quite a bit with the mod support. There's a lot of awesome. When we got the game, we didn't have all the tools. Not all the tools worked, and so we actually looked at the mod community to see what they had been using to actually edit the game. And so tools like CF Hoted was like one of the things we started to pull things apart. And then over time, we developed our own tools to actually be able to do more than what anyone in the community could ever do. Not only that, but we also got in contact with a lot of people in the mod community to help us actually remaster the game. And so some of the core members of the team actually came from the mod community. So one of the guys, Agostino Bocci, one of the complex mod guys, he's one of the core members for the design aspects. And so when you actually have someone who's been modding the game for so many years get involved with the creation of the remastered, they can really influence the parts that, they know what modders want. They know what they really wish they had back then. And by working with him and the other modders, we were able to actually add those things for the modders for the future stuff, which is really super exciting. But actually, Luke has some cool stories about modders as well. Because we really care about that in a lot of the features we do. When we have conversations, we say, well, how are the modders going to use this? And that's really important to us. So.
Yeah, we have a lot of that. The mod community is great, and mod support is really important for the game's longevity, and I'm really happy that under Gearbox's supervision, it looks like Homeworld's going to have a very, very long life. I don't know if the other project's going to be talked about, but there's other projects in the franchise, but the Homeworld itself is going to have a very long life because we're going to continue to support it, and we're going to continue to support the mod community, what with Steam Workshop it's called. So if anybody here wants to become a modder, if you have your favorite mod you want to do, please do it, and you can even make a few bucks doing it, as I understand. But yeah, also supporting the mod community is great for developing good code because you know that your stuff is going to get looked at and going to get used and going to get hammered on by people outside of your development environment. So it's a bit of a sword of Damocles. Helps you do a good job.
So talking about live updates and longevity, oh man.
Mission accomplished.
Look at that debris. Oh, Dave, you won. What was it?
How did that happen?
Can we do it again?
Go again?
So, Brian, you want to tell us a little bit about the Steam multiplayer beta that's going to be starting on February 25th? Why a beta?
Oh, wow. So it's funny when you actually make one of the biggest additions we've done to the franchise when it comes to the multiplayer aspect is we merged the Homeworld 1 races and the Homeworld 2 races so they can fight together in multiplayer and against each other. So if you want to play Homeworld 1, the Kushin against the Vaegir, by all means. Like, it's pretty ridiculous. And the balance on that's actually really tricky. And we want to really make sure that when we get that out there, we have hundreds of people who play it now. We would like to have hundreds of thousands of people to play it to actually hammer out those details. And we really want to make sure that it feels fair, and that's really important.
Yeah, so what we're going to be doing is we've been playtesting this as much as we can inside Gearbox. Yeah. Lots and lots, hundreds of matches. But for all the matches we've played, I'm going to guess within the first hour that this game's available, there'll be more multiplayer matches played than we have.
Easily. Oh, wait, no, I forgot this. This is really fun. In Homeworld 2, your max number of players in multiplayer was 6. In Homeworld 1, it was 8. Well, we made it so that it's now 8 in remastered, so you can actually get giant battles like that again.
We're coming home.
Yeah, it's too many arguments.
And what about the netcode? I mean, you talked about GameSpy there, and I think if you're not familiar with GameSpy, it was a matchmaking service back in the day that is now defunct. So all the games that had GameSpy can no longer be played online. So.
Yeah, that's fun when you have to rewrite the networking. So it works okay, and we want to make sure we want to really brute force, get as many people to play it to find out the kinks in it, to make sure that as a competitive game, you're getting into matches and you have the opportunity to win without getting disconnected. That was one of when we read one of the forums for Homeworld 2, and you saw some of the complaints people had. There's a really bad out of sync problem, and there's all kinds of weird voodoo ways to get around it. But we've been spending a lot of time trying to get rid of those problems, and some of those problems are just inherent to the game. But we've been hammering on that for since the start of the project to try to fix these problems. So for the beta, getting your guys' help to actually hammer on this even more is super important for the stability and the competitive nature of this game.
This is a chance for the players to actually shape where it goes. I mean, if something's overbalanced or.
Oh yeah, if you want a salvage Corvette to deal with the Vaegir properly, and move them around the map, that's really good that you actually have that look right and play right. And so yeah.
Also in multiplayer, Agostino Bocchi from he's from the Homeworld 2 Complex team. He's on the project now, and he's kind of put in a number of his favorite multiplayer features into Remastered. So we've got some new multiplayer features which weren't in Homeworld 1 or Homeworld 2, and so we've balanced those as best we can. But again, we need to get a lot more people playing the multiplayer before those are perfectly balanced, to be honest. They're really wonderful. I hope you all enjoy relics that we put in the game.
So what you just saw there, Dave fast-forwarded time a little bit. to make stuff blow up faster.
Keeping it interesting.
Hey Rob, hey Aaron.
Yes.
Just out of curiosity, what's it like seeing this?
Well, to be honest, I mean, what's up on the screen is well above and beyond what we ever expected anyone would do with a re-release. But I think really, for me, the action's in front of the screen. I can't believe that after all these years, there's still a community of people who are excited and interested in this game. And I see in the front row and here on stage, I can't believe that there's a community of people who are interested in carrying the game forward in time. I mean, it's been a long road for me. I mean, I've been on and off the game for 17 years now. And if you'd asked me 17 years ago if I felt that I'd be looking at a room, 15 years later, at a room full of faces of people eagerly awaiting the re-release of this game, I never would have believed it. So I'm frankly really humbled by that, and I want to thank you all here, and I want to thank Gearbox for being such great stewards of the project as well. So thanks, everybody. When I do look at the screen, I think, oh, holy shit.
So in Homeworld 1, who did the illustrations for the animatics?
That would be me.
In Homeworld Remastered, who did the animation? Who did the illustrations for the animatics?
That would be me. With the assistance of Brendan Mascott and Cody Kenworthy, two of the great artists we have at BBI. So the three of us, we redid it shot by shot. I had the original artwork, but I didn't have the original 640 by 480 Photoshop files for coloring them in black and white. So we actually rebuilt them shot by shot, and I resisted the urge to sort of play George Lucas and do the things I wished I could have done. I tried to stay true to the shots.
No. Aaron, come on. I noticed you put that little piece of glass around the guide stone.
If you don't like what I did, remember the classic editions are also still available.
He's trying to salvage me.
So, just for fun's sake, hey Brian Burleson.
Oh God.
This is one of those fun things we have in the office. Hey Brian, 4 people put up their heads.
We have a lot of Brians. It's
And Chris's. It's
I
weird.
got you.
So, Mr. Burleson, how big was Homeworld 1 and 2 back in the day?
Oh God, it was CDs, right? That's what you had.
God, I'm so sick.
Not a lot. I think at most 1.2 gigs if you put both CDs together. A lot.
And Luke was telling me that way back when, they didn't even install to the hard drive. They streamed off the CD, so they were ultra compressed.
Crunchy. Yeah.
Just how big is Homeworld Remastered Collection?
Oh God, it's like almost 20 gigs right now.
And that includes completely redone audio, completely remastered and remixed, right?
Oh yeah. Do you want to tell the rescue story, Mr. Luke?
Yeah, Paul Ruskey was the audio director on Homeworld 1 and Homeworld 2. He can't be here, unfortunately, but it's a really cool story about how when Gearbox bought Homeworld, they didn't have the original audio recordings, so they went to Paul Ruskey and said, hey, do you have any audio recordings? He's like, well, actually, I have all the DATs. He actually went into like some attic he had, and he pulled out a box of DAT tapes, which are recorded at 48 kilohertz, so actually pretty high quality, and he's able to remaster all the original music recordings. If you don't know, the Homeworld 1 and 2 used a frequency domain like sound engine, which is pretty high tech for its time, but it was compressed at a rate, to represent the size of the install that was quite small. So there was a lot of compression on them. So he was able to remaster them at a much higher bit rate for the new engine. Plus, another thing, anecdote I quite like is that you remember the actress who played the mothership in Homeworld 1, Karen Sajette? Her name is Heidi, and she worked with me at a company, and she wasn't a professional voice actor, but I said, you have to get Heidi, you have to rehearse her. And they're like, oh no, she's not an actress, we can't get her. I said, no, just listen to her. And so I remember Rob coming back from the recording session, he's like, holy crap, man. Heidi's just blinding result. And so she ended up being the actress, but when we did Homeworld 2, we got her in the studio again to record her, but she was 9 months pregnant, and she couldn't deliver the lines. Her voice was different and everything. So we kind of had to scramble to get another voice actress who is quite good, but she's not the same actress. So we're actually quite happy to be able to get her back in the studio because Paul Ruskay is friends with her and Fleet Intel as well. And got him back as well. And we were able to record all the original lines we wanted with these actors, plus the additional lines we've added for Remastered. So we got the original actresses, and they sound great actors.
Dave, Jonathan, you guys want to tell us something about what we're seeing here as we watch stuff blow up and it's awesome?
Me repeatedly blow the same stuff up, and then some guy jacked my battlecruiser.
Maybe
not
don't
happy.
let that happen.
I was just listening to these amazing anecdotes that are so interesting.
So, Evan, tell me a little bit about what you've been doing and your favorite part about Homeworld Remastered.
Well, yeah, Dave, if you want to maybe give this a pause and just kind of look at some of the ships a little bit.
You tell me, sir.
Yeah, I mean, just hop on the carrier or whatever. So, one of our, one of our big goals for this was to really, when you play a game and some time goes by and you have a lot of fond memories of that experience, and then you go back and play the thing and it's not quite exactly how you remembered it in your mind's eye, right? We really didn't. We wanted to go for what your mind's eye, like what you imagined a Homeworld would be, back in the day when you first experienced it. So, we didn't want to go in and add all this extra crazy stuff to things. We wanted it to be Homeworld. So we basically, each of these textures, we come through and we hand trace everything that was on the original texture source. We ended up hand making all new normal maps for everything. Everything has specular and reflection to it. It has blurry and soft and sharp reflections. So everything gets an environment map. Everything is up to modern spec, standards. It's our job in a lot of ways was pretty easy because we had such great source material to work with. So it's kind of hard to go wrong there, but at the end of the day, it was definitely a labor of love of just all the intricate detail of all these ships, just trying to capture it and, some of the stuff well, what were they trying to do there? And it was awesome because we got to talk to the guys. It's like, hey, what did you have in mind for this part that maybe was a little fuzzier than, it's kind of hard to tell what you're going for here. And then, they could tell us and we're like, oh, sweet.
Yeah. By the way, I think
carry on.
I think Rob's doing that right now to Brian. I saw him whispering in his ear. Jonathan, what about you, man?
Well, let's see. Which one did I do in this scene? I actually had more of the privilege of getting to do the Homeworld 1 ships. And with those it wasn't we couldn't exactly trace all the exact same detail from the Homeworld 1 and just add it to the Remastered because the information just wasn't there. So, but thankfully we had all the amazing concept art, the original art, and we can just kind of go off of that and really build what their initial vision was for Homeworld 1. And so we stayed as true as possible to that, while at the same time still keeping the original intentions of Homeworld 1. So that was definitely awesome to get to do. But yeah, I don't think there's really anything here that I did.
Point me to a map that we can show.
Jonathan's the Tidan owner, so a lot of those ships, when you see them when it comes out, that guy.
Right. We're going to go live here and just go way off script, and we'll see what happens. You guys saw Dave made this decision, not me.
These are debug maps.
Hey, Erica.
So real fast, a lot of the design stuff too, we worked a lot on the concepts and what some of the original intention was, but working with Rob and Aaron to actually direct what some of that detail that was missing was really big. And we're still tweaking things, we're still polishing stuff, and so when Rob leans over and whispers to Martel's ear, that's feedback we're still taking and keep working on.
This is the first time we have ever shown this to anyone outside of Gearbox.
Clipping.
Flagship underway.
Sorry, they're like spawning over each other.
So Erica, you want to tell us a little bit about what you've been doing on Homeworld and how that's affected things at Gearbox?
Well, I deal mostly in the moving about of assets, delivering assets for things like art books or mothership replicas, things like that, and showing the revisions to Brian and all the other interested parties to make sure that the products that we're putting in the collector's edition are, living up to the vision that they have.
Wait, collector's edition?
Oh no, was that a leak?
No, I think that's the opposite of a leak. So a year ago, we opened up pre-orders on Amazon for a collector's edition. Has a replica mothership, and it sold out so amazingly fast. So what else? I think our artists have eye problems now because of some of this.
Yeah, we actually, in our marketing office, we actually had to upgrade some hardware just for Homeworld. Some of our marketing artists now have 4K monitors so that we can capture in 4K. They have no complaints about that.
Some of our artists also haven't figured out how to turn text size up from Windows default.
Yes. And I feel like since I work mostly with helping you guys experience the game and not directly on the game, I feel like I can really fangirl for a minute here. I feel like that's okay. When talking about making the remastered version live up to your mind's eye, I'm somewhat of a newer Homeworld player, and so I don't have that mind's eye, but I still think that it allows me to appreciate the historical significance of the game and the way that I imagine players must have felt it at the time. Like, historically, I know how significant it is that Homeworld allowed you to move around in 3D space.
Destination locked in.
When I'm in the remastered edition, I still feel the impact of moving around in 3D space, and I think that's awesome.
I think, on a selfish note, one of the coolest things to me is Remastered Edition just feels like a game that's coming out this year.
Yeah, it really does.
It plays like a game that's coming out this year. It looks like it. So one thing you mentioned, though, Erica, and Brian, I think you can really speak to this. She mentioned an art book.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think we've actually talked about that.
Oh, yeah. We've so in the collector's edition, there's a little art book, but we also made a really big art book. And so a company, Blue Canvas and Section Studios, actually helped put that together for us. And so it is amazingly sexy because we got the original illustrations from Aaron and Rob, and we scanned them in at like 600 DPI.
Yeah.
And that's part of that art book.
Yeah, we were chasing them for months, being like, hey, can you find these original illustrations? And Rob's telling us, I'll go check in my garage. We're just like, what? And we get this thing, and you expect it to be this giant, like, boxes of boxes, and you see this stack of paper, and you realize that's where it all came from. And the art book itself, it'll be up for pre-order soon on Amazon, but it's huge, and it's hardcover, all that stuff.
It's pretty sexy. It's ridiculous. Like, one of the things at Gearbox we love to do is some things, like, cool things should exist, right? And so whatever we can do to make cool things exist, we do that, right? That's the passion that we have for this, for at Gearbox and for this product specifically.
And I think one of the fun things, go off-brand for just a second, with Mr. Martel. You can tell us a little bit about how making that Homeworld Collector's Edition and that Mothership replica impacted some other things we were working on.
Ah, yes. So, we were working with Idea Planet on for the collector's edition, and they were really such an amazing help. This is the first time we've ever put anything like this together that wasn't, that was solely us doing it, and obviously helped us to, figure out how to engineer, the mothership to look like it did, to get it painted properly, and light up, and do all the cool things that it does, but also the packaging and all those things. And later they even helped us do the Claptrap, the new version of the Claptrap Collector's Edition, and for the Handsome Collection. And those guys are just, unbelievable in helping us to do these kind of crazy engineering feats that, in no time.
Well, yeah, what was the story? We finished up the Homeworld Mothership,
Yep.
and they came to us and were like, by the way, we're not sure what you're doing with Borderlands, but...
We got an idea.
Yeah.
We think we can make Claptrap work. And
we're
so
like,
sure enough.
we laughed. We're like, cool. That'd
Give
be
it a
awesome.
try.
Go for it.
Yeah. And sure enough.
Then they did it.
It's like a small miracle.
Cool.
You know, one thing, I'm a real big art nerd. I read comic books constantly. I think one of my biggest budgets that I have is actually comic books. So back in the day, I was art producer on Borderlands 1 when we did the art change. And so we had to do a whole lot of art in a very small time. And the passion that it requires and like the care to actually do a really good job and give something style and personality, but you know, defer to the artists and that type of loyalty to your team to make sure that you're really doing a good job for them. And as a producer, you have an opportunity to do that. And so for this game specifically, I always loved the art style, and I always was really amazed by what Aaron and Rob did way back in the day, because it was so iconic for video games. But it's kind of like it's based on some of the old '70s, space, pulp magazines and comics and stuff. And so like being an art nerd and having this idea that I can work on this game to actually try to accomplish what their vision was like a total trip. And so like it's as a producer, like working on art and being a producer for artists is kind of like one of my passions and one of my dreams.
Brian just asked me and Aaron to share a little bit of the inspiration behind the art style of the game. Do you want to start with the ships? So Aaron and I were influenced mainly by the art style, the sci-fi art style of the novel covers of the 70s. So Chris Voss, Peter Elson, also some of the fantasy illustrators like John Harris back in the day. They did these incredible ships that were brightly colored with all this sort of medieval pageantry and just covered in decals. At the time, Star Wars was more or less the sort of pinnacle of sci-fi look and feel, but of course the ships were incredible, but they were all gray. There wasn't a lot of color on these things. So one of the things we wanted to do was to really get these things to be very bright and colorful and covered in decals. And Aaron really led that effort. It was quite successful. On the background side, I was at the time and still am an amateur astronomer, and I thought, if we're going across the galaxy, it would be great if you went from the outside of the galaxy deep into the inside, so you could really get a sense of the three-dimensional structure of the galaxy. So all of the backgrounds were designed to have this sort of colorful galactic horizon the whole time, which helped out as well because of the orientation issues. Like we were worried because the game was in 3D that players would get lost in space and the camera would mess them up, and so we were constantly worrying about creating visual references that were both vertical and horizontal. So you get a lot of vertical designs in the ships and a lot of horizontal background elements to help orient the camera and orient the players.
Cool. Well, hey, we're just about out of time, but Rob, Aaron, I want to ask you a question real quick, but Brian, I think you had something first.
Oh yeah, we also, for the soundtrack, Paul Reske remastered all the music again, and so we're also going to have the soundtrack available at some time in the future.
That's sweet.
So Homeworld Remastered Collection comes out February 25th, but Rob, Aaron, even before Gearbox got the Homeworld IP, you guys were working on something that looked awfully similar to Homeworld.
That's right. Yeah, so after leaving Relic, Aaron and I formed Blackbird Interactive and started building a game on the ground on a desert planet with, it was a science fiction game with huge vehicles that, met shipwrecks and wrecks and did resourcing in a giant desert. And we wanted to make this game. We wanted to make this vast desert, and we loved the style of Homeworld, and so we wanted to kind of pursue that a bit more. And so, by the time the Homeworld IP went to Gearbox, this thing we had been building called Hardware was already kind of like half built and, looked a great deal like Homeworld. Yeah, I mean, in fact, it looks so much like Homeworld that we were a little bit worried that whoever got the Homeworld IP would immediately sue us for copyright
I think even
infringement.
the logo
Yeah,
treatment
the title was the same font, same, and that wasn't a big decision. I mean, at the time we just thought, it's just placeholder. We'll just change it later. We'll just stick it in the Homeworld font and it'll be fine. No one will see it. And then of course it was like, oh.
When I wrote early versions of the storyline for Shipbreakers, unbeknownst to Rob, I was actually trying to keep it in line with the Homeworld canon. I thought, wouldn't it be great if, when THQ finally goes belly up, we could buy the IP and make our game a prequel. And so when these guys called and said, hey, what do you think about Shipbreakers being like a prequel? I was like,
ooh, that's convenient.
Nobody knew that I had done this, so they were like, "Oh, that could be hard. We'll take a couple of weeks to see if we can get that to work, and we'll get back to you." And then they came to me and said, "What do you think?" And I'm like, "The notes are here." It took like 5 minutes.
Like done.
I know, but we still booked a whole weekend at Rob's cabin to work on it.
Yeah, yeah, that was a good weekend. Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
So Homeworld Remastered, February 25th. Homeworld Shipbreakers, these guys up at Blackbird are working on it right now. We're really excited to share more about it in the future. So can we close out with a giant explosion?
No, unfortunately. So they killed all my guys.
They killed all your guys?
Mothership.
They're saying scuttle the mothership.
You guys are cruel.
Blasphemy.
All right. Well, let's give it up for Dave. Thanks, everyone, for coming out.